What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode number 15 of the Duality Podcast, where our motto is living comfortably uncomfortable. My name is Ian Perez, joined by Jonathan Mercado, Victor Rivera, and Chris Zora. We're four ordinary dudes with extraordinary dreams. Chris, take it away, man.
Hey, so today we have a special guest. I've actually known him for 4 years, but after reading his book, I realized I don't really know him all that well. But yeah, I mean, we don't get to see each other too much at work. We work together, but in different departments. So I didn't really know a whole lot about him, but like I said, I learned a lot from his book, and he's the founder of Everything Connects Media, and he's also the author of an award-winning book, First Generation Father.
How about that?
Got it right here.
Oh yeah.
So we welcome the Toledo Torpedo.
Oh,
Anthony
wow.
Blankenship.
What? The Toledo Torpedo. I love it. Funny.
Well, you talked about being fast in your book, so.
Yeah, it's funny. It's true. Yeah, I guess you really did read it.
Well, welcome.
Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate the introduction. Thank you, gentlemen, for having me. I've been following you guys and your progress from a distance via Chris, and I'm really proud of you guys. And, anybody who focuses their energies and efforts on consciously improving and bringing, these conversations to light, giving a space for guys to have these conversations, I applaud you guys straight out of the gate. And even if it just stays amongst us four, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then, then there'll be something gained from it. So hopefully some people can listen in and gain from all of our different experience and perspectives. So thank y'all for having me.
Of course.
Appreciate
you, my man. Isn't it weird though? You might think you know somebody, you can say hi to them, 10 plus years, but you really don't know too much about them. I've been in the gym for about 10 years, and you'll get the, hey, how's it going? And like, that's the extent of the conversation is, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Put your reps in. Yeah, I got a good pump. But you really have no idea what they've been through. And it shows. I actually consciously just wanted to take it a step further 2 days ago. Seeing this guy putting a lot of work in, see him, he's a regular, and I have my eyes. I'm consistent. I know who's regular. I know who's in. I know who falls. I know the whole thing. And I know this guy's been putting a lot of work in. And finally was being very conscious. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to ask him, a little bit more. Right. We always just do a little air five, like, hey, man, good job.
Yeah.
And then finally on my way out, he was on his way out. So I was like, man, it's a perfect opportunity. Let me just stop and have a conversation with him.
Dig a little deeper.
Yeah, dig a little deeper. Dude's from California, and he lives like 2 blocks away from me.
That's funny.
And he has kids. He's into bicycling. And I was like, I'm into bicycling too. And so, I went a little bit deeper, and which is good. Right. It was good just to have a conversation because now we're both able to communicate. And now I'm helping him out with a little bit of fitness, and we might go on a bike ride together. Yeah. So like a little bit further. So it was cool just to do that.
That's cool, man. Yeah. When you see people every day, there's a whole bunch of layers to individuals, right? We don't walk around with our bare self exposed. We don't walk around with our deepest traumas and wounds exposed. It would honestly be awkward if we did. So we walk around a little bit guarded, a little bit layered, and it takes really kind of getting to know somebody before they really open up to you. But what I found through this book is that this has been a blessing for me. One of the reasons I opened up so deeply in the book it's not about me per se, about like traumas that I've been through or anything, but I do speak about those things just because I'm going to ask the reader to evaluate those things in the reader's life. And I felt like I can't in good faith ask the reader to evaluate these painful events from their past if I'm not willing to share some of my own. So that's why I open up about some of the things that I open up about. And for anyone who isn't familiar with the book, it's First Generation Father. And I come from a broken home. So my mom and dad were never married. My dad ended up having 7 children with 5 different women. Just that alone, as you can imagine, would leave a trail of, angst and anger and incomplete, complicated emotions and whatnot. But on top of that, the home life was filled with, domestic violence for a period. Both my parents had drug issues for a period. My dad ended up doing 10 years in prison. So like all this negative stuff. And there's so many people that come from that type of environment, and the people around them who mean well, they tell those kids, do better for your own family, like do better. well, hell, how do you do better? Like, how do you do it?
Yeah.
Right. Everybody wants to do better, but there are so many deeply seated issues that we don't know how to address and move past. We try to suppress them and they end up sabotaging our relationships moving forward. And that's how cycles are created. So fortunately, I was able to figure this out and break out of this cycle. My wife and I have been married. We're actually about to celebrate our 20th anniversary in July of this year.
Congrats.
We have 2 beautiful kids.
Nice.
Thank you. We have 2 beautiful kids. And, over the last 44 years of my life, figuring out how to heal and genuinely move past these tough issues, I've figured out a system and it's worked. And I was able to put it into this book, and, it's been really well received. And, to bring this back full circle to what I started to say, in this book, I'm exposing so much of myself that a lot of people who I don't really know have come up to me and they feel like they know me, and they feel comfortable, and they're appreciative that they have somebody who they can trust to tell some painful events from their past that they've never really even spoken to anybody before. And in doing so, they can move forward and genuinely start the healing process and make sure they don't pass down these generational scars to their own children or sabotage their own relationships.
I like what you did there. That was a leadership move. You opened up first, right? You can't ask somebody to do something if you can't do it yourself, right?
100%. So, I spent 5 years in the Army, and, I learned that leaders lead from the front, right? Yeah. Leaders lead from the front. So here we are, man, just plugging along and still trying to make progress. Like I say in the book, I'm by no means the perfect husband or the perfect father. It's a never ending journey. You have to stay conscious, and some days I'm better than others, but I just keep fighting a good fight, and that's all anybody can do. And that's kind of what I said, why I appreciate you guys having this format for guys to talk about this type of thing, because oftentimes guys, our tendency is to just man up, shut down, and then just like try to power through stuff. But there's a lot of guys out there with a lot of deep thoughts and feelings, and they don't necessarily have a space to share them because, they don't have what you guys have created right here. So props to you guys.
Appreciate it. I think that's the opposite. Yeah. When the guys think they need to shut things down and they think that's the guy, like a man move, the actual real man move is to open up.
It's true.
Like that's the real harder move to do.
It's true.
And I feel like that's more of a man. It's the harder move to actually make that happen.
100%.
So, this is why we're doing it. But Chris, like always, we want to get into the whole story, right? How all this happened, because, curiosity, right? Sure. We want to be super relatable.
Sure.
Before we get into all that, we usually do a fun topic. So with that whole Toledo torpedo thing, I was going to say, what was your guys' nicknames growing up?
Ooh. Hey, you got to censor this.
I got it. I said I played basketball. High school, I was known to do with the basketball all the time. Oh, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. So my nickname was Kobe too.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I'm ain't lying. Wait. I'm not lying. I got proof.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining the podcast. It's in.
Oh, wow.
That was like the best.
Kobe too.
Yeah. All over my yearbook too. I'll show you guys one day.
Yeah, no need to. All right. But
that's why I say I was good. I'm not as good as I used to be. So I don't even try anymore.
I had 2. One was Big Boy. So backstory, I moved from Maynard to Pflugerville and I played football. But when I moved to Pflugerville, all my friends played soccer. So I played soccer. So it was Big Boy and Bruiser because I was this big chunky kid first playing soccer. And then all I could really do well was knock bodies over. So that was basically it. And then eventually
Bruiser's a dope nickname for a kid.
Dude, I'm surprised you never did a bouncer for like a club or something with those nicknames.
I'm too scared.
He's like 5'2". There's no way he could be a bouncer.
Okay. Don't make me stand up.
I know he's gonna stand up.
Are we the same height? Or are you about like
I'm a little taller than you. I'm definitely wider than
centimeters. You're some centimeters taller than me. Chris, you got a nickname?
Yeah, so growing up, I also was a basketball person, but also did track and field.
Oh my!
Yeah, I also was one of the better people in track, particularly in the jumps. So my nickname was Air Tahoe because I could jump high. and I'm from Lake Tahoe. So that when I was in Lake Tahoe, they called me Arizora, my last name. But then once I moved to Southern California,
Like
they
that.
named me Air Tahoe, and I even got it
Arizora.
on my track spikes my senior year too.
Yeah, so you were that legit.
Man,
That's
okay.
dope.
On the track spikes. I
What were you
like
doing,
it.
like the broad jump and whatnot?
I did long, triple, and high jump.
Oh wow.
I
Yeah.
know that,
realize that.
Chris. This whole
And then I
time.
coached it for
Ups
3 years
go?
after
Did you
that.
like just
No.
lose the ups? 'Cause I don't think you can touch net. I'm just playing.
I definitely can't jump the way I used to. That's for sure.
I have to see if there's anything I could find of you on YouTube or anything, some competitions.
Probably not.
What year did you graduate high school, Chris?
2006.
All right, let me write that down. 2006.
Look it up.
Arizora.
Arizora.
Type that in. See what pops up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't really have a
Right,
nickname. Now,
Yeah.
my name is Anthony. Growing up, people called me Tony. Playing sports, people call me T. People still call me T that know me from sports. Yeah.
Well, good. I'm not the only one. I don't have a cool nickname like these dudes.
Yeah.
Unless you're talking about my midnight nickname. That's something else.
But the weekend gig.
That's the weekend gig. Though, but I did have a nickname, and people actually did call me this. And thanks to my brother, I don't think you guys ever seen the movie. Maybe you have. Forgot what it's called.
I've seen a lot of movies. Which one?
It's an old school movie, and it has a lot of little people in it, and it's like a back in the day. Totally forgot what it named, but one of the little people.
Big Trouble in Little China.
His name was Peck.
Was it Big Trouble in Little China?
No, it wasn't. It was like an old back in the day, like knights and people and tribes. I forgot.
Willow?
Willow, yes, Willow.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Let's
You know, I was thinking about the same thing. I just couldn't think of the name. I thought about the dragon, the little monster thing. And
I can't believe you knew that movie. Yes.
Yeah,
So-
I don't know. I've seen it.
My brother being a savage the way he was, and he just gave me the name Peck. And early on, it just literally stuck all the way to high school. So it was only like my inner circle. They would always call me Peck. And like the girls that we hung out with that were in our inner circle, the girls we hung out with, they also call me Peck. So it's like,
that ain't cool.
It just stuck. It wasn't even cool.
No, you like to show off your pecs.
Did you like that, or just something
No,
that
I
annoyed
didn't. I
you?
hated it. I was like, just call me Jay. Like even my name's just too long, Jonathan. At this point, just call me Jay. Like no nicknames, just Jay.
Jay's good.
Jay.
You could always throw
Jay.
something. You could always just throw something at the end. J Money, J Boogie.
Oh,
Jay.
That? Okay.
You know,
Well,
just put
because
some
of
flavor on
that,
it.
all
Yeah.
the little businesses that I start always end with like a J. So Jay's Fitness Grind, Jay's Athletics Camp, or Jay's Trainer J.
Yeah.
It's
go.
always like a J now, so it just kind of goes. But yeah, I didn't get the Arizona. Well, I should have, because I felt like I did get the tattoo of the basketball on me. That's how legit I was.
No.
I got the
Where is
real
it?
tattoo.
Which
I
ankle,
got it
left or
covered
right?
up. I got it covered up. It's on my arm.
Oh,
I recently got it covered up, and I started playing better with it covered up. It's pretty ironic how that happened. All right, what we got, man?
Yes.
Good?
Okay. Yeah. So you already kind of answered what one of my first questions was going to be, but I want people to know you a little bit better. So I was trying to see, like, tell us about your life growing up a little bit, like some of the struggles you dealt with. I mean, you kind of touched on it a little bit with domestic abuse and all that, but
yeah, man. So there's so many, like I said, complicated layers to my story. And Chris, to bring it back to what you said, complicated layers to everybody's story. When you get to know people, you know, most of us have more things in common than we recognize. We all have issues, traumas, you know, scars. And chapter 1 in the book is called Scars. And, you know, some of the scars that I suffered personally, well, even at the beginning of my life, my mother was white, my father was black. So straight out of the gate, you're dealing with an interracial relationship. They weren't married. This wasn't now, even nowadays in 2021, some people have serious issues with interracial relationships. Well, this was 1977 in the Midwest, right? So imagine, you could imagine. And like I talked
10
about,
times worse.
Oh man. And like I talk about in the book, my mother was still in high school at the time. She ended up dropping out of high school. Her father was a old-fashioned white guy, right? Old-fashioned. You know what that means?
Yeah.
Like he ain't going for that. Put her out, She was pregnant with me. We had no place to go. She's dealing with a terrible relationship where she's getting abused, a bunch of bad decisions by a bunch of young people that are a bunch of, they're unhealed themselves in a lot of ways from things that happened to them or with them or decisions they made, and they didn't necessarily understand why they made them. So, spoiler alert, at the end of the book, the last chapter, second to last chapter, is about forgiveness and how it's so important to forgive and come full circle. So I'm by no means like bashing my parents throughout the book. Like I said from the beginning of this talk, I only talk about these traumatic issues because, one, they had a significant effect on me. Two, I want the reader to be able to relate. And then three, it brings us full circle to the power of forgiveness. So, but I did have those issues growing up. And I had a lot of racial issues growing up throughout my life because I was a mixed kid in Ohio. And I'm thankful for that now, because as America's kind of having this really deep conversation about race, and it's happening on all levels. It's happening with really, really smart people, and it's happening with not so smart people. And it's happening with in the whole stratosphere in between, right? I feel like I'm uniquely qualified to bridge the gap in understanding a lot of times between Black intelligent people and white intelligent people. If you're dealing down on the lower level, I just try to stay away because it tends to be a trap that you can't win anyway.
Oh, it's tough.
Hey, Anthony, I got a question if you don't mind. Just it pop real quick because my stepdaughter is mixed, and I guess it's more not really a question, but more of an ask. Like, what advice would you give a young mixed Black male or female, like where to stay mentally strong? Because I would assume so at some points you don't feel white enough, but then again, you don't feel Black enough in some instances. So like what advice can you give somebody young to stay strong in their personality and just stay strong in who they are as a person and just figure themselves out, and instead of trying to hear essentially both sides on you need to be more this and more that, you're not enough this and enough that.
Yeah. No, you hit the nail on the head. You almost said the answer within the question about how to stay strong. But I would offer this advice and encouragement to any young person who's going through that. It's going to be hard. There's no way around it. You're going to deal with things that children shouldn't have to deal with. You're going to experience ugliness in people that you don't understand. And, I talk a lot in my book about the process of alchemy and the process of taking a negative or taking a hardship and turning it into a positive. I want to encourage anybody in that situation to know that eventually you'll see this challenge and this hardship as the ultimate gift in your life, because through you learning who you are outside of the label of a race, outside of a Black person or a Hispanic person or a white person or whatever, you will learn yourself at the deepest level, and you'll learn that the real kind of essence of you can't be identified by the label that somebody else puts on you. So stay encouraged and just know that when things are hard, you're really kind of gaining a deeper understanding of humanity. And ultimately you'll understand that, there's a depth to people that goes beyond their race. And when you really understand that, you're totally free of feeling any obligation to act a certain way or to be a certain way. You're liberated and just genuinely being yourself. And that's a gift that a lot of people won't experience in their life, but you will. So hang in there.
Awesome. Thanks.
I like that answer because it could be a gift, and it could be something that could be literally disabling, right? And it tater-totters on that mindset, right? Because yes, for someone who's understands that all trial and tribulations can be a gift and can use it as an advantage as whatever situation you're in, or it can be literally this is the end of the world type mindset, right? And it all depends, and it starts with you, Ian, right? I would say it would start with you, Ian, keeping that positive mindset going. For sure. And I think you said this was your daughter?
She's mine. I say she's mine, but she's my stepdaughter.
Okay.
Love it.
So I'm saying that she's your daughter too. So how old is she?
She's 11. She'll be 12 this year.
Man, this is a tough time.
Tell me about it.
This is a tough time because so much of our self-worth at this age is being driven by what others think of us. We're trying to figure out like, how do we fit in? How do others see us? It's very important to us at that age. And that's totally natural. I want to make sure that I have a point of clarification on what I just said. it's going to be a process for her to come to that understanding of who she genuinely is beyond her race, right? She's 11. It might not happen now and it might not happen next year, but if she has somebody in her life who is encouraging, and I can already tell by the way you phrased the question that her having you in her life is a blessing. Like, she's going to be fine. She just needs to make sure that she doesn't let these external people cause her to do something that's out of her own character. Because as I talk about in the book, I had a bunch of issues in my young life that caused me to act way out of character and end up getting in trouble because I thought I had so many layers behind these crazy acts that I did. I ended up robbing a guy at gunpoint and going to a juvenile prison, and like, bro, it was bad.
Wow.
And a lot of that stemmed from these issues that I had in my home life, but also the complex emotional trauma that I didn't even have the understanding to process. I didn't even know what I was feeling. But on top of that, the complex social layer of, here you are, a 13, 14, 15-year-old Black kid, not quite Black enough for the Black kids, not white like the white kids. And it's a very like uncertain time, and you start grasping at everything. I'm thankful we didn't have cell phones back then. I don't know what type of dumb stuff I would have been into, but even watching like certain rap videos and seeing certain lifestyle and be like, I guess I should be like this. I guess I should, I guess I should do this if I'm gonna keep it real. And I ended up going off the beaten path. But unlike you are, I didn't have a strong father figure in my life and in my family that kind of gave me a grounding by asking questions like you just asked. It was just kind of like, he'll be all right. Let him figure it out.
Yeah, definitely. That's how it would have been.
I was not all right. I got there in the end, and that's how I know she'll get there in the end.
I'm not gonna lie. I had the same mindset when I started off of being a father. I was a teenage father.
Wow.
And so I grew up just knowing how my father wasn't really a father. My father was just kind of there. Who fathered me, weirdly, was my older brother, who was also a bully and a savage at the highest level. Like, talking about savage at the highest level, like manly guy. If you cry, you're the biggest wuss, whatever you want to put it. You're going to go against you, get it right, yell in your face, beat you up type mindset. And so that grew up with that. Yeah. And so I totally get it. And that's what the old Jonathan would have been to my first child. And I did. I messed up with my first child, but I grew from it. Even though I didn't want to do that, it was such my environment that's what only thing that I knew with sports with my son. And it created like a taste in my mouth. And that's where I eventually led off into understanding and self-awaring and leadership, and like, just straight up apologizing to my older son. Like, man, I'm sorry that we're growing together about this, because I would have told my son, and I did tell my son, we're not going inside, bro. Like, toughen up. Like, we're not going inside till you get this right. And I'd be in his face like, no, it's not. Like, I would be like all up in his grill. Like you said, like, cause I didn't know better. Right. Toughen the F up, boy.
Right. How old is he now?
He's 13 now.
Oh, wow.
So I caught it.
He's still really young.
He's still young. I caught it early on. Early on. I recently just caught it about 3 years ago.
Dang, at what age did you have him in the yard, bro?
I told you I was 17. I told him I had a midnight name, bro. I was like, people knew me
early. I started early too, but not that early.
Oh man. I was a real basketball star. All the ladies were getting in line just to, just at least touch me and give me a high five.
Okay.
Yeah. I wasn't no fake basketball star.
As you can tell, Jonathan's really into himself.
I just like good laughs, bro. Look, I made you laugh. I just like to make good laughs. That's all it is. I'm super aware, right?
Yeah. But I think you brought good points. I like the fact that as far as that father figure makes a difference in a kid's life, or even mom, right? Any type of parent type role, or not parent type of role. I would say, what's the word?
A role model.
Role model, yeah. Role model type of role really makes a difference.
It's true.
And I would tell you,
I'm not to contradict your point, but what you're saying is 100% right. But there is a certain level of when the young man is trying to figure out how to be a man.
Right.
There's a level where, like, as much as grandma loves you, as much as your auntie loves you, as much as your mom loves you, Like, you need a man to kind of teach you how to be a man. You need to see a man and be like, that's how I'm gonna move. That's how I should be. You know what I mean? And there's only so much that a loving woman can do.
Yeah,
I've
need a man.
I've seen that. Like, I've seen that firsthand. Not for me, but other people in my family, and I can I definitely agree with that. But I would say Ian as well is that I grew up. My dad, the person I call my dad, is not my biological dad, but he was that role model for me.
Yeah.
And you having open conversations with your daughter is going to make a lot of the best of difference. And
For
so
sure.
like when I bonded with my father from like in the teenage years, like 12, 13, 14, it was conversations after conversations. And my dad started like Jonathan. My dad was strict, like really strict. Like, so like you say something wrong, you look the wrong way, kapow. You know,
you might catch one.
My son's lucky I didn't start there. I thought I was doing better than my older brother because I didn't actually beat him down, but I was real mentally abusing him, which is just as worse. It's just as worse.
As bad.
Yeah.
This is bad.
So I grew up with that, like, I can't talk. I can't speak my mind in front of my father. That type of feeling. Right. But as years progressed, I think he realized the same thing you realized. And then we started talking.
He evolved.
More. Yeah. Yep. And I got to know him and I was able to speak and we spread. So that, I think that start, like, just what you're doing, conversations with your daughter, even if it's not your biological, like, you don't have, it doesn't matter. But for me, like that even grew up in a relationship even more. And that really molded me to, you know, who I am today.
Good for you, man. I feel like the world is speeding up. Everything's getting faster. Something can happen in Florida 5 minutes ago and you hear about it in your pocket like that. Like everything is speeding up. Information is whatever you want. If you want to know anything in the world, you can find it out in your pocket, you know, right now. So that's great. But also with the world speeding up, I feel like kids are growing up faster and also they're having responsibilities put on them at a much younger age. Like they can do something at 12 or 13 that can derail their entire life right now. Where back in the day it was, kids are going to be kids and, you know, it was just a slower pace. So that means we have less room for error as parents. Like it used to be mom was the emotional support person and dad was like there to give you the belt when you needed it, if he was there at all. But now, you know, both parents are working. Everybody's hustling to make it. The world's getting more and more expensive. Everything's a stress. So I feel like mom and dad are both like, just like women didn't have to work, but now pretty much they have to work. Dads didn't have to be emotionally evolved or conscious or present, but now you have to be. Like there's too much going on and the world is too fast for you to be like, I'm kind of this emotionally removed, checked out guy who you're just lucky I'm here and you got a sister across town that you don't know about, but don't worry about it.
I think that's a huge risk because I do think parents or fathers just saying that they're there makes them justify them being a great dad. And that's like not the case at all. You need to be in the moment. You need to actually physically and mentally be there because just sitting on the couch, watching the game and then bragging about it. I'm here for my kids every night. Like that's not being there.
Yeah, it's true.
You gotta
and
be
one thing I will say, it's true. And one thing I will say in the book, I really try to have the tone of not trying to like, I don't try to talk down on any parents. I don't try to belittle anybody's parenting strategies or anything like that. I really am just trying to provide some of the lessons that I learned so that if it can speed up some people's learning process, then that's all I'm trying to do. Like if somebody can learn, especially imagine. So unfortunately, we didn't have our kids until a little bit later. But if I learned something at 40 and can tell somebody like you who had a kid at 17 and can tell you, hey, bro,
game changer.
Get like life changer. You know what I mean?
Changer.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the tone I have in the book. It's not some like holier than thou or anybody who doesn't do it this way. You can look through this and take and cherry pick any information you want. Anything that helps anybody, I'm in favor of. You know what I mean?
I think that's what we're all here for.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I try to teach my kids now is extract these lessons early on now so that when they go out in the real world and they get punched by the face, because it's going to happen, They're extracting these lessons now, so that way that punch it'll lessen up. Well, they might learn how to bob and weave, right?
Yeah.
Oh, my dad taught me that one.
All right, I'm gonna transition a little bit.
Sure.
So Anthony, in the book, you mentioned how like that crime you said you committed that sent you to juvenile, whatever juvenile. What's it called? Juvenile.
It was a prison, bro. It was a juvenile prison.
Okay.
One of the guys, like, I even mentioned it in
the
the book, one of the guys I rode down on the bus with was there for shooting one of his parents.
Yeah,
like, it was, yeah.
Crazy.
But yeah, so you said like, after that happened,
Mm-hmm.
you use that like kind of as a slingshot to like into the direction of self-improvement.
It's true.
What were some of the things you did to really like kickstart that journey of self-development?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. The first thing, and this is another thing I'm hoping that the book prevents some people from doing. First thing is I hit such a low point. Like I hit rock bottom. I was 15 years old and I was a couple months away from turning 16. If I had been 16 and done the same crime, I'd have got 7 years and they would have kept me in juvenile prison for 2 years until I was 18. And then they would have put me in adult prison to finish the sentence.
That's nuts.
So by the grace of God, I was 3 months, 2.5 months short of that. So I got sent to juvenile prison, and then there's a whole new set of rules, and it ended up being okay. But the main thing that allowed me to propel myself forward was the just bare bones, no BS understanding that nobody's coming to save me. There ain't nobody coming. You might have every reason in the world to be unsuccessful. In fact, if you look at my situation on paper, I had every reason in the world to be unsuccessful, to be not graduate high school, if I had a job, have a terrible job, have time in prison, to just exactly recreate the cycle, have kids all over the place. And it was that ultimate accountability of, man, anything that I'm going to accomplish, I'm going to have to make up my mind to do it. And then I'm going to have to freaking put my nose to the grindstone and make it happen. And slowly but surely, I would love to say, then I flipped a switch and everything was great. Life doesn't work like that. Like I said about your daughter, it's a process. So slowly I started to make better decisions, and slowly I started to see improvements in my life. And eventually I gained momentum. And then by the time I was barely about to graduate high school. I'll talk about this in the book. That was kind of the biggest decision, was like me wanting to graduate high school. Credit wise, I was so far behind that my counselor said it's impossible for you to graduate high school on time. You missed so much school. I was skipping like crazy my freshman year. Sophomore year, I went to jail. Like, it ain't gonna happen. So I determined that I was gonna make it happen. I did this thing, you can't even do it now, I would imagine, called correspondence classes, where I took classes through the mail. They would send me books, then I would read the books, then they would send me a test, and I'd fill out the test and put it in the mail and mail it back. I did that. Wow. I did summer school. I had to get special permission my senior year because I didn't have senior credits yet. I had to get special permission from the principal to take all classes all day, no lunch period. Right? You know how you have like a lunch or a study hall or whatever? Yeah. Nothing, classes all day long. And what I started to realize is the more I helped myself, the more other people wanted to try to help me. So I had a teacher who was like, found out what I was doing and would let me eat my little lunch in the back of class. Right. And I was like, man, I'm seeing it as the harder I'm trying, the more lucky I'm getting. And also the more people are like willing to help me. And eventually I got momentum behind it, and I was playing baseball and I got a scholarship offer kind of out of nowhere. And I was like, this is it, bro. This is my opportunity. So I moved from Ohio. I graduated with the exact amount of credits that you need. I got one scholarship offer for baseball, and it was down in Savannah, Georgia. And I thanked my lucky stars and went down to Savannah. And there it was like a fresh start. And it was a big, wide cultural opportunity for me. I was seeing people from all over. And like from there, it's just been, that was really kind of like being born again for me. And end up meeting my beautiful wife down there, and life's been good ever since. Man. Still struggles, but now I understand I understand the freedom that comes with being able to make a decision and stick with it, and also the obligation that I have to make healthy decisions, because even to this day, I know I can make a terrible decision tomorrow and sabotage everything. And believe me, there's parts of me, this happens a lot when people come from toxic situations, like a lot of us did. There's a part of me that's more comfortable with dysfunction, right? It's hard to be in this position that I'm in, which is like been married for 20 years, live in the suburbs, have kids who go to a charter school. We have, 2-car family, wife has her own business. Like there's a part of me that's more comfortable and still more familiar with toxicity and chaos, because that's
easy.
where I came from. Yeah,
it's easier.
Easy and it's familiar.
It's easier. No,
it's
for sure.
unfamiliar for me to get stuff in the mail about my retirement and stuff. I'm like, you know what I mean? It's unfamiliar to be like, the kids have a college savings account. Like it still feels like a little bit like it's someone else's life, but we have the power to choose and we have the responsibility to choose. And once you make up your decision, once you make up your mind for something, there's, there are no excuses about not attaining it. You may not get it, but it's up to you to give your best to go for it.
So when you were going through all this, what were you doing to like better yourself besides going to school? Were you reading like self-help books? Were you listening to different, I mean, I know they didn't really have podcasts at that time, but like, I don't know, self-help tapes or
right.
I don't know.
Let me add that. Not only self-development, did you have a positive forcer, like somebody, a mentor, someone who actually was able to spit a little bit of game your way?
Yeah. My high school baseball coach.
Okay.
My high school baseball coach was ultimately the one that told me like, look, dude, you got every reason to fail, but you also have what it takes to succeed. It's just up to you. You're going to choose. And so I decided to choose. But Chris, you asked a good question. So I'm going to hold up the cover of the book just because it's important for what I'm about to say next. So you'll see here, there's 3 circles of what I call the 3 primal energies, right? The red, the blue, and the yellow. So this is a philosophy that I've developed over years, and it's come to me very arduously, very painfully over a long process. So if you get this book, what I've tried to do is break it down in a way that you can apply what took me 20, 30 years to learn, where you could start to apply it now. So Chris, you're asking if my development was like total, was it happening all at once? It was not. So at that period, my energy was all warrior energy. Everything that I had was a fight. My mentality was a fight about everything. About school, I considered it a fight. I considered it personal. Sports, it was a fight. It was personal. And in those ways, that attitude was helpful because I needed to fight to escape the past that I was coming from. When I got done with school, I ended up joining the military, and in that environment, having that like dog mentality, it was perfect for it, right? It was very,
basically you had a chip on your shoulder.
Yeah, I had a chip on my shoulder. It was F the world. And I used it to try to put myself in a better situation. And it worked for a time, right? But life isn't one dimensional. So ultimately, once my wife and I were married and I was trying to like live a regular life and I was strictly in this warrior energy, my life was out of balance. I was not the husband that I needed to be. I was underdeveloped intellectually, and I was underdeveloped spiritually. And I didn't understand what was happening at the time. I just knew I felt like too angry, too fight mentality. So I started reading different things. I started broadening my understanding, and I didn't know it then, but I was feeding my intellectual energy, which had been kind of starved, even through school, because I didn't go through school like, oh, I'm here to learn. I went through school like F everybody back home who said I'm a dropout, right? So over years of focusing on my intellectual energy, I got out of balance again. I got out of balance that way. I overthought things. And now I have this warrior. When I say now, I mean at this point in my life, the point I'm describing, I had this warrior energy. I knew I could fight. I knew I could get through tough situations. I'd been in the military. I've seen stuff. And I had this intellectual energy where it was like, but I was using it almost negatively. I was like, I could take my mind and I could fight people and fight situations and analytically break stuff down. But I was still out of balance. I still didn't feel like whole and full. And what I realized is that I was short in my spiritual energy. I didn't have like a real connection to anything bigger than myself. I understood intellectually why certain religions appealed to people, but they didn't appeal to me personally. In fact, because I was so heavy in intellectual energy and spiritual energy, I tended to try to like poke holes in religion and point out why they were factually inaccurate and stuff like that. I was spiritually weak. So realizing that, I started focusing on my spiritual development. So I started asking, like, not so much are these stories true, but like, what are the similarities? What value do they bring to people's lives? How do they help people? And in doing that, I started to find similarities, and I found what for me was like a really deep truth that allowed me to connect to all different people in all different situations. And that simple spiritual truth is summed up for me in 2 words: everything connects. And that is the name of the media company that I started and wrote this book under. So over the process of being like a troubled teen, all the way through the military, all the way through getting out of the military and trying to find my balance, I finally, several years ago, figured out, I see what it is. I see what's happening. And I saw these 3 primal energies as I looked at people and situations. I saw them playing themselves out over and over and over and over again. And I realized if everything connects, these 3 primal energies aren't just applicable to me, they're applicable to everybody. And so I saw it, I broke it down. I used those 3 primal energies now to guide my life and to guide me in every direction. I use them to write this book. And I talk about how you can take that warrior energy and focus on like a particular target or a particular goal. And you could say, F this goal, I'm going to knock it down. Like, write a book. Then you could say, okay, how can you focus your intellectual energy to make sure that you're doing that in a smart way? Let me research, let me find out what works, what doesn't. Then you say, how can I balance my spiritual energy in that? How can I make sure that I'm centered and I'm saying things that help people and bring people together rather than push people apart? And that's been the process. So to get back to what you said about your daughter, when I said she's going to be okay in the end, it's a process, but hopefully some things, and maybe not this, but something will come along in her life that helps her speed up that process.
And I actually had a question about the primal energies.
Sure.
So you said that was something that you came up with yourself, or was it something you learned from another philosopher?
It's a just insight, man, just living life and going like, what am I feeling? Like, what is driving me? And ultimately, nice. I realized that for myself, these 3 primal energies, they drove everything that I did. They drove everything that I said in one way or another. And there's some combination of these energies that drives everything that we do. And the more I kind of paid attention to that, the more I was able to find balance within those and realize, okay, this is perfect. Now I have control of these things. Now I realize I can't let my warrior energy get out of control. If it does, then I may be fighting against the people that I'm supposed to be protecting. Then I may be lashing out in a way that's not helpful to me or to what I want to achieve. I can't let my intellectual energy harm people because that's out of balance with my spiritual energy. I can't let my warrior energy get too weak because then I feel like impotent and I'm not like really manning up in my life like I know that I should. So I really found just through these 3 primal energies, I could balance myself and accomplish, peace in my life and health and happiness for my family. I think anybody can.
There's an actual quote in nutrition, because nutrition is very similar to what you're saying. People tend to think if they eat certain foods, they're going to be healthy. And if you overeat something food, it's not healthy. So you can overeat good foods and it still be bad. Yep. And so I think that the token here is in moderation, right?
Yep.
Water seems great, but if you overdrink water, you can literally die.
Yep.
Protein seems to be great, but if you overeat protein, you're gonna have trouble pooping. And so, and moderation is great, but once you get to that moderation or that search for that balance, I believe there's no such thing as balance. But to search for the pursuit of balance, you're gonna be way better off than trying to be too extreme. I tend to think when you have control, you now learn the fact of harmony. So that means you're able to pull your gift when it's needed. Exactly. Use it when needed and then dial it back down, because life's are seasons.
Exactly.
You're going to go through certain seasons that require a little bit more of this. and then you can dial it back down. But you won't have control of that unless you learn all three.
Exactly. And to piggyback on your point, you're exactly right. When I talk about balance, it doesn't mean that every moment of your life is balanced. It may mean exactly like you said, like when we geared up and we went to Iraq for 13 months, well, you know, you can take your intellectual energy and pretty much put it in your back pocket because you need to be a warrior out here. You know what I mean? Balance is when you come back, like this life is long, right? When you come back, now, how do you start to recenter yourself? How do you start to refocus and rebalance? And there were times when I spent much more time focused on my spiritual energy and very little time focused on my warrior energy, because that's what I needed to kind of balance myself out. And I know now that at any given moment, I can go, you know, 100% in any direction, right? I can go to church with somebody, or I can sit down and have a spiritual conversation with somebody and pray with somebody and genuinely feel like connected and related to that person. I can have an intellectual conversation about, you know, things that are happening in the world or whatever you'd like to talk about. Or if we have to strap up and, you know, we're doing some sort of a physical challenge, or we're having to tough out a really tough situation, I can put that other stuff in my back pocket and do that. And that's not some talent that's special to me. It's just the understanding that, okay, these are the three things. And when you really learn that, you can do just like you said, you can master them and you could use them at your disposal.
Glad that you said, I'm glad you said that these are learned, because a lot of people would tend to look at you and like, oh, it's natural. He just has it. And I don't. No, we're all ordinary people, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Jocko, right? Jocko said discipline equals freedom.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I would say it's a process. I think process of learning who you are, right? I think it's premature to, and I think a lot of young people have this pressure, like you have to have it all figured out like in your 20s or something like that, right? And I think about it now, like I was on my own and like my late teens to like early 20s, I was on my own. And so it was, and now when I think about it, I was like, damn, I didn't know nothing. I don't know what I was thinking leaving my parents' house. But I definitely liked, you know, your book and how you explained the energies and stuff like that. I was talking to my wife about it. And I was like, man, it's pretty cool because it's similar to kind of how I approach my life's beliefs as far as different things. I have to bring out different parts of me in different situations. That's how I see it. But it took me a while to learn that, like learn the dog in me, or learn to be the empathetic in me and stuff. Like I developed certain things because naturally I'm a very empathetic guy. I'm like not confrontational and stuff like that. But I learned and progressed in situations. I had to be that, like I had to like say what I need to say and not be apologetic about it. But not to hurt anyone, but just to kind of, you know, so this thing was like, oh man, it's interesting. I never thought it that way, the way you put it.
And your family needs you to do that. Your family needs you to be balanced in all three. There's going to be times when they need you to be a dog for them, and you got to be willing to be. And if you're not, they know you're not. And it ends up backfiring on you because they don't have the respect for you that they should. They don't have the respect for you that you deserve, because when push comes to shove, they know you're not going to fight for them. You know what I mean? And these are metaphors. There's all different ways to fight. I'm not talking about going upside somebody's head, although if that has to happen, that might have to happen too. But I'm talking about really like fighting for them. That may be a situation like a few years back, I had to work a shift that I didn't want to have to work because we needed the money at the time, and it was a lot of extra money. And like, for me, I had to access my warrior energy and be like, I'm gonna do it because it needs to be done for the family. For sure. If it sucks and I'm tired or whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, you do what you got to do. You know what I mean? So that energy, I want to make sure. I want to make sure that everybody's understanding. It's metaphorical, and I don't want anybody to read this and then like go upside their kid's teacher's head or something. They
go Aaron Donald on someone.
Go Aaron. What happened with Aaron Donald? He beat up his
I don't know. Anthony told me to go dog on somebody.
I've been reading about it, but no one's telling the whole story yet.
Yeah.
Well,
At first, I heard he just roughed a guy up. Then I heard maybe it wasn't him, but I just read that the guy that got roughed up was like really beat up.
Yeah, his eye was like he was. I forgot what the term is, but
hematoma.
Really catch me, not
no, he had a broken orbital bone.
Oh, really?
That.
He got
this here is messed. It's broken in there.
Yeah.
Oh wow. I didn't read
lot.
much about it, so
I would be a terrible fighter. I barely get nicked and I swell up. I always look like I lost the fight, but I was like, no, you didn't see.
When I first heard it,
he's glanced at me.
When I first heard it, I was like, dude, you don't know who Aaron Donald is? I'm not messing with that guy. I don't care what he says to me. Like, all right, sir, thank you.
Yeah,
moving along.
Yeah, he throws around 300-pound dudes professionally.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. That's a man that hits you and you say sorry. Like,
sorry. I'm sorry.
So I wanted to ask you, during this whole journey of like improving yourself, at what point did you say, I want to write a book? And what was it that made you actually want to write it?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. It was such a long process writing this book. And when I started writing it, it wasn't this book. At first, I was just writing because it was part of my healing process. So I started writing. There are parts of this book that just published in 2020 that I wrote in 2003. Right? That's 17 years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's actually part of my next question. I was like, I know it took 17 years for you to write it. You told me that a couple months ago. And then
I know it sounds mind blowing, but when you think about it, 17 years ago, I didn't have any kids. I wasn't writing this book. I was trying to find a balance within myself. I was like, intellectually, I need to like deepen and develop. And then as I started to do that, things that started to come out were painful situations from my past and stuff I had experienced and whatnot. So I was almost writing like a memoir at first, and I didn't necessarily have any plans to publish it. I felt like it needed to happen. So I started writing, and then I wrote a bunch, and I went, well, this is just all for me, and no one cares. No one will care. And then I stopped, and then life would happen more, and I'd deepen more, and I'd develop more, and I'd kind of come to deeper understandings about life. And I go, man, I have like a kind of a philosophy here. And then I would write for a period, like, a year or whatever, not writing every day thinking I'm going to write a book, but I'm just writing like, I don't know what this is going to be. And that happened on and off. And then you have a kid, and then you're dealing with the kid for a while, and then you find a window. Next thing you know, you're writing for 6 to 8 months. And then you're like, this is like a different book, I guess. So ultimately I had like 4 different kind of start stops of different books, and one was like a fiction book. And I was just like, I don't know what any of this is. It'll probably never be anything. And then several years ago, it just was the right time. I guess I feel I finally came to the right understanding of the warrior intellectual spiritual energies. And I came into this balance, and I went, I get it. And I understand how to take all that early writing and kind of refurbish it and refashion it into a cohesive piece for this. And it really was that whole life lesson. That's why, like, I always tell people, I'm not a writer. Like, I'm a dude who wrote a book, because I'm not like, now I'm going to go write another book. I'm like, this is it, bro. Like, this is what I know. This is what I've learned in my life.
But you were prepping for that moment. Inadvertently, you were prepping for the book forever, but without you intentionally knowing it, you were already putting your reps in. So when you came to the golden moment, it was like, I'm going to write this. You've already put but 10, 15 years in. So when you came to write this book, you were more crafty, you were more knowledgeable. It was a little bit more ease, because if you had wrote the book with 10 years earlier, it may not be.
I couldn't have wrote it because I didn't know it. Like, I didn't have that life understanding yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And maybe I'll develop a new understanding in sometime in the future and go, I didn't know this back then. So
they normally do. There's normally always 2 versions. Right, to most books. I just finished a back-to-back author of 2 books. Willpower Don't Work, and then the second was Personality Isn't Permanent. And they're kind of the same thing, but there's a little tweak where he came to, oh my gosh, I missed this part. Yeah. And then he started, but when I was reading the book, I was like, man, this sounds familiar like your last book with an extra chapter.
That happens a lot.
Hey, but it was good. It's still good stuff though.
Yeah.
So the fact that you just wrote it and then published it, published, I feel like writing might have been the easy piece, because for me, actually publishing and putting it out into the world, man, I would have been stuck on just hitting submit, like lit essays in college and stuff.
Yeah,
you would have found reasons
and it just
not to press submit.
It took me 20 minutes to actually hit submit. I was so nervous.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. You know, I went through this company because I published this book myself. I own all the rights to it. I had to start my own company to own all the rights to it. A lot of times, if you go through like a traditional publisher, not a lot of times, every time they own all the rights to the book. They own what you can say about it, what you can't, when you can talk about it, when you can't. They own most of the royalties and all that jazz. I wanted to keep all that stuff myself. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with this guy, David Goggins.
Oh, for sure.
So David Goggins, when he did the same exact thing that I did, he went through Scribe Media. And that's kind of what sold me on them. When I was talking to them, I was like, I'm not quite sure. And they're like, well, you know, David Goggins like published his book with us. And I was like, oh man.
Okay.
Goggins is the man.
That's a familiar name. Yeah.
I'm like, David Goggins is the man. I love this guy. He reminds me so much of my military days. He's just swearing all the time and just doing an insane amount of work. So I was like, all right, well.
There's a lot of dog in him.
Yeah, he's all dog. He's all dog. So I was like, man, okay, if David trusted these dudes, and again, I don't know David, not yet. Hopefully I'd like to meet him one day because I think he's a phenomenal guy. But so I was like, okay. And as I started to move forward in the process with Scribe Media, they said, you know, a lot of people, they get all the way to the end, they get all the way to the finish line, and then they back out. They said they've sent people emails and go, okay, we're like, your book's going to go live. We're just waiting on the green light. You ready? And then they get ghosted.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
People will do years of work and then flake at the very last step, right?
That's nuts.
Something about them is out of balance. You got to do the digging and go, what is it? Is it a warrior part of me?
That's a confidence issue right there.
Yeah. Am I afraid of something? Is it an intellectual part? Do I feel like not smart enough? Is it a spiritual part? There's so many layers to people. Like there's a lot of people who feel like they don't deserve good things in their life. You know what I mean? Believe it or not, they feel like I don't deserve good things to happen to me. You know, there's like trauma can cause so many different lasting effects in people's lives. I can't talk about all of them in this book, but I do talk about a lot of them. And I really try to help people get past them and get to a healthy place and get to where they're allowing positive, good things to happen in their life. Physical health, mental and spiritual health, wealth, like all good things, man. You deserve it. And you just have to get balanced and let the things come into your life, you know?
Sure. We talk a lot about entrepreneurship and doing stuff on your own. Did you have any experience of being an entrepreneur at all? Did you 8 to 5? What did you do for a living?
No. So I was and still am an X-ray tech by day. So I work at a surgical hospital and I take X-rays for surgeons that are doing surgeries, like intraoperative X-rays. So your grandma's getting a new hip and the doctor's putting a new hip in. Like I take X-rays during the process to make sure he's not, putting it in backwards or whatever. Yeah,
that would suck.
Yeah. So so she's not break dancing when she's walking up to Easter dinner. Yeah. So I do that. And, it really was like the height of a balancing act for me to get this book finished, because I had 2 young kids. I'm working full time. It was a grind. I went back to school when I realized, there's just a lot about creative writing that I don't quite grasp. Let me go take a class. So I slugged do you swear on the show or no?
No, I try not to, but I do it all the time.
Jonathan does it all the time.
I slip it out all the time. The guys look at me and I got to be me, bro. Like, I'm sorry. It's just who I am. It's in me. And so, yeah, go ahead, man. Let something out. Fuck.
I schlepped my dumb ass back to community college at like 38 to 37, 38 to take a creative writing course to figure out how can I make this book as good as possible. And you got to swallow a lot of humble pie when you're doing something like that, because you're working every day. So I would go before work and then I show up to work with my, book bags. People are like, what are you doing? I'm taking this writing class. They're like, okay, because a lot of great writers go to community college at 38. You know what I mean? But I had to access that warrior energy and be like, F everybody. I'm going to do this. And but it was such a long process. which honestly just makes it being out into the world that much sweeter. Like this has just been a whole blessed like event for me and my family, because my family's been on board too. I'm not a smart enough person where I could steal away for 1 hour, write, and then come out and then everything's good and I'd leave that in the room. Like I'm the type that stuff stays with me forever. So we're having dinner and I'm like, what do y'all think about this? And we're having dinner. I'm like, so if you're out of balance, like, should I write a whole chapter on this or should I just cut it this way? My daughter's literally 8 at the time. Like, I think you should trim that part. Like, I don't know. It's like, isn't that redundant? Didn't you say that in chapter 3? I'm like, damn, girl, you smart.
I think that's super important though, getting everyone involved. I think you have to get everyone involved, right? Because you can't do things solo. And I try to explain that to a lot of people. You can't do things solo. You need other eyes. Yeah. Thankfully, that's why I got the squad right here, because some things that I do, I'm like, I got to go through them first. Yeah. And they're able to be like, yo, and I'm like, thank y'all. I'm glad I didn't do that. Thank y'all so much. Yeah, and for sure. I'm more curious about the process, like you said, because in this episode or in this journey, this podcast was meant for people who want to achieve big things but don't know how. And so you had an 8-to-5 job. You're 37 years, with 30-ish years old, and you never written a book a day in your life.
It's true.
They do not know that you had to go back to school to learn to get better at this craft. What else?
Community college, bro. I was older than the teacher. I was in community college. I promise. Forget being older than the students. I was older than the teacher.
Wow.
All right. Not only that, what else did you have to do? Because there's not just writing and being a better writer. Yeah. Who'd you go? Did you get a mentor? Did you how to publish? How to go out and find a media? There's a lot of things. Who's going to edit the book? Like what's that's a lot of stuff.
I knew none of that.
How'd you figure it out?
I just knew I was going, and I set it as a goal, and I started marching toward it. And I went, all right.
Started. And
I say, and I oftentimes tell people, I'm very thankful when I started that I didn't realize how long of a journey it was going to be, because I might not have started. Because I knew so little and I was so naive. I'd be like, I don't know, it'll probably take me about 3 months. And then I'd start going, and then 3 months would pass, and I'd be like, I'm actually worse off now than I was before, because now I realize I need to go take a class. And then I'd be like, probably 3 months after that. So you take the class, then 3 months after that, you're like, you know what? I just realized that I don't understand anything about distribution. Okay. So then next thing you know, you're down a rabbit hole for the next few months trying to figure that out. And then you're like, okay, well, I remember I took this master class from Hay House Publishing. Hay House Publishing is a publishing house that they have a lot of self-help guys. Like the guy, Dr. Wayne Dyer. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, and a bunch of people. He's the like bald head dude who you see on, he's on social media a lot. He recently passed away, but he would sell CDs on like PBS and stuff all the time. Super successful guy. Anyway, I was like, man, Dr. Wayne Dyer, I know him. I'm going to go see what Hay House is about. And, so I bought this master course, and the president of Hay House comes out, and I'm like, man, this is it. He's going to tell me something fantastic right now. And he said, a lot of people think you write a book and then bring it to us, and then it becomes wildly successful. He's like, that's not how it works. You need to build your own platform first. You need to have a group of people who know you, like you, trust you, are familiar with your message, and are willing to be the grassroots foot soldiers for word of mouth for that message. So I literally had none of that. So I hit stop. I was like 2 minutes into this master course, and I'm like, okay, I guess I need to build a platform. Then you Google like how to build a platform. Then it's like, utilize social media. I'm like, okay, how to utilize social media.
I love it. Like you're giving everyone the blueprint right now. Yeah. People think that they have to know something to get good at it. That's like people saying, I want to get fit, but before I go to the gym, I need to get stronger first.
Yeah.
No. Where do you go to get stronger? You go to the gym to get stronger. You don't have to have a base. The base is you starting. I think that's the toughest part.
Yeah. I read somewhere once, I would give them credit, but I'm not sure who said it. The person said, the price to being successful is embarrassment. Like you got to be willing to be embarrassed. Most people aren't willing to be embarrassed. They're not willing to go somewhere, start something, do something, and have it look absolutely crazy. And the people around them who know better be like, what are you doing? But if you're willing to willing to do that, somebody's going to help you. Somebody's going to say, hey man, check this out. And you're going to go, oh, and you'll be able to look back at yourself. And if you're humble enough, you go, man, that was insane. I can't believe I was in here doing it like that.
I want to
like that.
You said something really great about when you came out from juvie and you made a decision to start. I want to graduate, and so you put all your efforts in it. Yep. And you kind of mentioned there, luck started happening your way. Yeah. And nobody was going to save you. Yeah. Luck didn't happen your way. When you start, if you get a car and you get a flat tire, and the first thing you do is reach out for help, nobody's going to help you out.
That's true.
But when they see you pushing, guess how many people are going to jump out of their car to start helping you out?
Enough.
So it wasn't luck. Yeah. They see you consistently putting in work. And so now people want to be a part of that.
Yeah, it's true.
I just don't believe in luck. But when you started speaking, when you just try and put in effort and don't worry about nobody else, people will come and help you.
It's true. And people love seeing people try their best. So I have a smart friend. Her name is Julie House. Julie, if you're watching this, what's up?
I love smart friends.
She works for a company and she edits like one page, or at least she did at the time. She edited it. She would edit like 1-page newsletters or flyers or whatever. So in my mind, I'm like, I know an editor, right? So I met with her and I'm like, Julie, would you meet with me about my book or what have you? She meets with me in a coffee house. I open up my bag and literally it's like papers are overflowing from the bag. I got stuff that I'm writing down at work. I got stuff that's written on napkins. I got stuff that's 20 years old almost. Then I got stuff that's on the computer. And God bless her.
Like, I'm out.
You know what she did? She helped me change my flat tire because she's like, organize this.
She saw that, man.
She's like, organize. She's like, dude, you are insane. But I was trying, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was her later on. I knew nothing about Scribe Media. She sent me a link randomly and she's like, check this out. This might be something for you. And I checked it out and I went through Scribe and ultimately they did my editing and they helped me get things in place. And but that's exactly what you're talking about. Like if I weren't doing it already, if I were waiting, well, let me wait till it's real organized and let me wait until it's super laid out. No, man, you got to freaking get going. And someone will see you. And she saw me with a flat tire with a big ass basket full of papers everywhere. And she said, well, let me try to help you as much as I can. And she pushed me in the right direction.
At one point, all the greatest people in the entire world knew nothing too.
Yeah.
They were just like you. Yeah. But what they did, they just got started.
Yeah. But I feel like me personally, I feel like that speaks to the validity of my message that the things in this book, it wasn't some like super crafted, like marketed scheme to be like, oh, if I say this, then I could get people to buy it. It was like, bro, I've really learned this philosophy. I've really like developed it and cultivated it. And I have it written everywhere. Like this is my life. It's on this, back of a freaking whatever. Because I'm living it. I hadn't really I hadn't like polished it or anything. It was just like real. You know what I mean? It wasn't like I'm going to write a book about this to try to sell 1 million books. It was just my life. And I have younger brothers who are going through situations. I have an older brother who's been in prison 16 years, still in prison right now. Wow. So these were real philosophies that I was trying to like solve life with. And I used them in my military leadership. I was an officer in the Army. It was like all these ideas was like, I finally got it. And I was just, writing it crazy however I could. You got to be willing to be embarrassed and somebody will, help you along.
For sure. And I think everybody, not just parents, anybody can benefit from your book.
Yeah,
your book is hardcore self-development. Yeah. Looking at yourself in the mirror and understanding where are the gaps.
Yeah.
And depending on your 3 spiritual, what do you call them?
Yeah.
3 primal energies.
Yeah. 3 primal energies for sure.
Self-assessing which one needs work, right?
For sure.
So you don't just have to be a parent. So if anybody's listening to this podcast and wants to read this book and you're not a parent, you're prepping to be a parent. All right. So you're putting in the work early because eventually one day, if that's one of your goals, you'll be there already, but not just just parenting, but just in self-development in general.
Yeah.
I think everyone should be reading this book because it was phenomenal. Not just because you have a sexy voice. This book is actually very, very good.
Kobe too. You say that to everybody.
I like that you said that because I was actually going to bring up the same thing. It's like I had to admit at first I was deciding to just hold off and wait to read the book until I became a father.
Yeah.
But then when I was I knew it, but then like I don't even know what I read something about the book. I think it was maybe on your Instagram page or something. I clicked on your website and I started reading some of the other things. I was like, oh, it's not only about being a father.
It's true.
And then I was like, I needed a book because we try to read a book a month. That's something that we do on this podcast.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to read Anthony's book. One, I'll support him. And two, I mean, it seems like there's a good message behind it and I can learn from it. And there's so much more than just being a father on there. Like you talk about finance, you talk about being a husband, being a father, being a son, like you kind of cover
better
like
person, man.
Everything. Yeah, just a better person in general.
Yeah.
And it's a great book.
Well, thank you. Yeah. One glance at my Amazon reviews and you'll see a ton of women on there who say the same thing. Like this book is for everybody. You know, and I'm appreciative of that.
No, and I usually take like the whole month to finish the book.
Yeah.
I actually finished your book today.
Wow.
Yeah. So like that's only halfway through the month. So
Dang.
I was trying to get it in one day. I was super close, but then we got stuck with a little bit of real estate stuff and I had to turn it off. I was like, shoot.
Are you in the market for something?
So Chris, you be telling people what we're doing, man.
I thought you were cool.
Well, I mean, we just,
Chris,
like I said, we don't see each other too much.
He's embarrassed. You're embarrassing me, Chris. So
a little bit.
Into, once again, anything is possible, right? And
anything is possible.
Everything is figure outable. I think people need to understand that anything is possible. Everything is figure outable. All you got to do is put in the work to go learn that specific thing. And so early on, me and Chris wanted to do real estate. It's been in the talks for a while. Finally, we started taking action, and now we're balls deep into it. Where we're in the midst of buying a rental. It was supposed to be a rental property for an investment, but comes to find out we don't have enough money for that. So now we're trying to do a fix and flip to build the capital. But anyways, we're in it. We're figuring things out. It's from out of market. We're doing things in Chicago. And yeah, we're doing things in Chicago. And so we're coming across already obstacles,
of course,
because we have expectations that we're not aware of. And so fortunately we self-developed so we can handle these situations without freaking out. But we're on our third real estate broker.
Wow.
Third one, because first one, the communication wasn't there. Set the expectations early, wasn't there. Second one, I set the expectations again. They overpromised, underdelivered. And so the third one was a charm. Third one.
We talked to her today.
We talked to her today.
It made us feel way better about the situation.
And I was just thinking, if it's the third one and this is how they operate, then I think we just need to have shift in mindset.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe it's just a shift in mindset that our end is on us, right? Because maybe we're thinking just like fitness. I started working out. I should lose 20 pounds. Maybe I thought that was our mindset. But then we talked to the third one. She's like, no, you have it all right. They are having the disconnect.
Wow.
I was like,
they're doing things old school, she said.
I was like, say less.
Yeah.
And so, man, right now we're in the works. We have what, 30 days to try to get this thing moving because we have a 90-day pre-approval process.
Wow.
And so within the 30 days, it's time to hustle and bustle, boy. I'm like, it's ready to get in.
Making moves.
Yeah, and I was also talking to 3 or 4 other realtors today. Just before we spoke to the one that he mentioned, just because like he mentioned, we've been having trouble with the other brokers.
Yeah.
So I just started reaching out to a bunch of different people, and then they all had different things to say. Like one broker was saying, "Oh, if you don't have at least 400K, you shouldn't even invest in Chicago, especially if you're out of state." And then others, we can look into it. And then they never got back to me or whatever the reason. So I was like, once we met once we talked to this lady on the phone, it just you could tell something was different.
It was
about business, man. I love it.
Good for y'all, man. Congratulations.
It's
unbelievable.
Listen to Warren Buffett. You're not making money in your sleep, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, that's what he says.
I'm trying to learn it. I'm just trying to learn it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Good for you guys. That's amazing.
Man, appreciate you.
Thank you.
Hustling.
We got last questions, shoot fire questions. We can wrap this up because I want to respect this man's time.
No, I'm pretty set. I think I'm good.
You straight,
Vic?
You good?
Yeah, we're good, man.
All right,
I love
listen.
the process. What's up?
Listen, thank you guys for having me. I love what y'all are doing. I appreciate you. I respect you. Keep hustling. Keep grinding. And y'all got to have me back another time. We'll just totally just like sports stuff and like music or whatever y'all are into.
100%.
Give us a nugget because you got some years ahead of us, and you're doing things that I would have loved to aspire to. I would love to write a book later on. I got crazy stories, but
you know what? Like
What's
reading your story, I was like, man, I got a story to tell too.
We all got stories. Eventually, one day, I would love to write a book. So,
Exactly.
some words of encouragement to take us out of here, or some wisdom you would give us, right? Because it's a perfect opportunity. Got some young gentlemen here that are aspiring to do great things like you. What would you give us, my man?
Well, listen, they say there's nothing original under the sun, right? So a lot of the philosophies that I subscribe to, I've come across in my life. I don't necessarily try to say that I created any of these, but I've kind of pared them down into a belief system that works for me. And that belief system is one that I started saying years ago. And the more I said it, the more I started to see it, the more I started to believe it. And the more I started to believe it, the more I started to see it. And that philosophy applies to our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health, our finances, our friendships, our relationships, our professional lives, what we see when we look at the world. And it's boiled down to two simple words: everything connects. How you look at a thing, how you look at a thing determines what you see. Right?
Yeah.
Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. And then you start to take power over your life in all those different ways when you realize everything connects.
Everything connects.
That's powerful. That's powerful.
I thought you were going to take away with what goes to Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas. I was like, okay.
I guess one nugget could have been, don't run up on Aaron Donald.
Oh yeah.
I would have taken it. I don't know.
Oh man.
I think from all of us, think Don to be the only one.
The inner dog in me would be like, oh nah.
Is that Aaron Donald?
Let me set my
warrior.
Bro.
Yeah. Let me set my warrior energy.
I'll bite that dude in the neck, bro.
Yeah.
Like just real quick.
Yeah. That's the thing. If you're not mindful of your warrior energy, it'll have you doing dumb stuff like running up on Aaron Donald. You're like, no, bro, we meant like set an investment plan or something.
I learned my lesson early on. I ran up on somebody I shouldn't have ran up on.
Yeah.
Got cracked.
Some lessons come harder than others. Some lessons come harder than others.
That's awesome. Well, hey, I guess we'll close it out. Mr. Anthony, thank you again, sir, for your time, for your knowledge, for your nuggets.
Thank you so much.
Where can we get the book?
Yeah, where can we get the book? It's Amazon for sure. So Audible.
Amazon for sure, 100%. It's on wherever you get your audio books. It's on Audible and all that, like Apple Books and all that jazz. It's on Amazon. Personally, I prefer you go to my website. That way I can sign the book and send it to you. Oh. The cost is the same. The shipping is free. My website is anthonyblankenship.com. And I will say this one last thing. I've created an opportunity for people to donate to readers in need. So if someone feels like this is a message that they support, but they don't necessarily want to buy a book themselves, they can go to anthonyblankenship.com. And I have a first generation father initiative tab where they can read about how they can donate to either people in prisons and jails, military families, or families that are in counseling.
That's great.
And I've even had people donate books and just say, just wherever you best see fit.
Yeah.
One thing that I've had happen that really kind of lets me know that the book is resonating with people is I've had people buy the book, then read the book, and then come back and say, hey, I want to donate 2, 3, 5 copies. I've sent copies to over 20 prisons in the United States already. I've sent copies to military families. One of the prison librarians that I talked to said a book like this will be read 500 times here, easy. So imagine the power of, contributing to somebody who got off track before they got a chance to learn any of these lessons and giving them the opportunity to rectify themselves and maybe like straighten their family out when they get out. Cause these people, they're getting out. You know what I mean? So when they're in jail, we need to try to help them
break that cycle.
Yeah, because
Sure.
you're getting out, bro. And when you get out, are you any more equipped to deal with life?
It's awesome.
Awesome. I love it. I think it's fair to say the Duality guys will donate a couple books to your website for sure.
Yeah.
What we would also like to do to show support. I think your message is so great. We want to spread it in the world.
Thank you.
We're going to raffle off a couple through our socials as well. So if you could,
that'd be dope.
If you want to plug your social so we know and we can kind of have everything put together, go ahead and drop that now for me. I'd appreciate it.
Yeah. So it's just my name, Anthony Blankenship, on Facebook. I just take personal friends and whatnot at Anthony Blankenship. On Instagram, it's anthonyblankenship.fgf. And those are my two primary methods. And also I'm open to conversations and whatnot. I'm super, open. If a reader wants to contact me or somebody has a personal question or whatever, just slide in the DM and we'll chat. You know what I mean? Because it's genuinely about like trying to provide people with the tools to better themselves.
Impact.
Awesome.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's great.
Yeah.
All righty, y'all.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks, Anthony.
All right. Bye.
Awesome.
Alrighty, ladies and gents. That was a good convo, good conversation. To close it out, as always, you were born to be great. Please go be great. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, peace and love.